Hey everyone, it's Code Grammar here, and today I'll be showing you how to add dark mode to any HTML website using OpenLight. So this tutorial will consist of how to use OpenLight in automatic mode, how to use OpenLight in manual mode, and some features which aren't necessary to use it, but you might find them useful. So before I get started with the tutorial, what is OpenLight? OpenLight is just a little project I made to easily add dark mode to any HTML website. Just as I said before, it uses JavaScript, but you really don't need to know JavaScript to use it. I mean, you need to know JavaScript to understand it, but you can really just copy almost everything without needing to know JavaScript. So first off, you're going to want to download the repo on GitHub from GitHub. So I have it open right here. You can get the link down in the description, or you can type it in right here. It's just github.com/jpvela/openlight. And yeah, so if you want to skip to either automatic mode or manual mode, as depending on what you want to use, then there'll be timestamps in the description where you can just skip ahead. So first off, I'm going to download this. I already have a project right here. I'm in the directory right here, and so I'm going to just download this. Download it over here. It's going to be projects OpenLight tutorial. Alright, now I'm just going to extract it. So in Mac OS I can double click it. I believe on Windows you can just right click and extract all. Now I don't need this anymore, so I'm just going to do that. And then finally, you don't need all these files. This is really just for the examples that are already in the repo. You don't really need the license or the readme, so I'm just going to copy these two files over to the root directory here and organize it a little bit, if I can grab it. Alright, there we go. I don't want this anymore. Alright, so now that I have that downloaded, I can just quickly walk through this part and show you some examples that I already have made, just so you see how it works. So if you want it offline, you can do it the way I just did it, which is downloading it and including it. You can also use this link to just get the JavaScript file via this HTTPS request. It's hosted on CodePen, so yeah, you can do that. And also here I show like manual mode and automatic mode, but I'm already going to show you that in this tutorial, so we don't really need to go through this. So this is what the end result should look like in automatic mode. So automatic mode just means that it will go through all the elements and just base it off of that. And in manual mode, you can specify which elements you want and what colors you want them to start out with. So like in this case, it automatically makes this button, the background, dark because I'm in dark mode. But let's say I wanted it to have more contrast with the background, I can invert that in manual mode. So then we get this nice transition. And then here, and I'll talk about this part later, it's not necessary in manual mode because you just you manually will set what you want and what you don't want. So, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So now that we have that downloaded, I'm going to open up VS Code, and I have some files ready to use. So I'm going to start out with including the actual library, so script, and the source is going to be OpenLight.js. And there we go. I have yeah, VS Code will kind of just complete that for me. And yeah, we want that in automatic mode and in manual mode. So let's see, what were we gonna do first? Auto mode. So I'm gonna go over auto mode first, and yeah, so here I don't have to do anything too special. I just have to open up a script tag. Here I have the example open. The end result will look like this, so it's not that long really. And then I'm going to do this. So OpenLight, let's do this properly in JavaScript. So var OpenLight equals new OpenLight. So that's just going to create an instance of the OpenLight class. So if we just take a quick look at this, I don't really recommend you look at this. It's a lot of stuff that you don't need to look at. And so yeah, it's all this. And so yeah, I'm going to make this object. I keep saying and so yeah, I keep saying that. And we're doing auto mode, so we're gonna pass in auto. If you don't put anything, it's gonna default to automatic mode. So if you are in manual mode, which we'll talk about later, make sure you put manual mode. Just manual, not manual mode. So yeah, now that we have that, we're going to, if you want, you can change the default color. So over here I have OpenLight colors. These are the default colors, but I just want to show that you can change them. So I'm gonna copy and paste that over. So yeah, there is a variable in the OpenLight class called OpenLight colors. It's just this object here, and you can change these RGB values. And if you do choose to change them, make sure you put your spaces in here, or else it sometimes it won't work in certain circumstances. So just put your spaces there. It's not too hard. And then that should change the colors if you want. I'll show you actually. I'll make the dark mode background 255, so it should be a pretty reddish background. And yeah. So after that, we're going to just for simplicity, we'll do for now we'll do OpenLight.init, and this should basically be ready to go. If we double check here, that's everything. And this, okay, sorry, I am looking at the manual mode file, but if you go over to auto mode, it's the same. And we'll talk about this line here and this line here and this line here. We'll talk about that in just a second. So now that I have that opened, we can open a new tab and open up our examples. So let's see, what is this? Right, I accidentally copied over the manual example. We don't need that, don't worry about that. I'm going to open this up. And so you can see here, it automatically went to dark mode. I have it set like that. If I want to toggle it, then we just run OpenLight.toggle mode. Alright, there we go, and it's back in light mode. So to link this to a button, all we need to do is run the toggle, but on click. So on the button, we can just do on click equals OpenLight.toggle mode. So we open back up this window, and now we can toggle between it. And as I pointed out before, it's red, and that's not necessarily something I like, but I just wanted to show you that it works. But we can change that back. There we go. Now it's more of a dark mode theme, not some bright eye-burning red thing. So yeah. Now if you want to, since this goes over all the elements, if you want to have some elements not change color, let's say I wanted some more text right here. If I wanted this to not be changed by dark mode, by OpenLight at all, so it won't change from between dark mode and light mode, you can do that. So if I want to do, let's just open up a style tag here. We're going to make this color, let's make it cyan. That's something we can kind of see in both dark and light mode. You can see that it won't actually work. It's still turning black and white. And so if I want to make sure that doesn't happen, I can just run OpenLight dot add override, let's see, override by class name. I just made this so I don't have everything memorized, even though I made this myself. So actually, instead of doing h1, I'm going to put some class names. So let's just do .h1 and let's add a class right here. Alright, there we go. So if we're going to pass in the class name h1, it should now be cyan. There we go, we get cyan now, and it's not changed between dark and light mode. So it overrides OpenLight, basically, is all it does. And that's pretty much all of that. And if you have some tags that maybe I haven't found out about in HTML, if there's some unsupported tag like iframe is not supported because I just don't think it's necessary yet. But let's say you thought it was necessary, or there's just some other tag you can do. OpenLight dot add tag, and you can do iframe, and I can't really show you that it would work, but let's see if we do. I haven't tried this out yet, but let's just make an iframe right here. I don't even know if that will show up. Oh, there we go. So let's see, it's not moving around. Add tag is not a function. That's right, because I can't even remember my own library. Alright, so it's actually add background tag. It depends whether you're doing background and foreground. So foreground means like the text color, and background means, of course, the background color. So instead of add tag, we're going to do add background tag. And now it should, yeah, there we go. It changes background color. If we go ahead and inspect this, we might be able to see that that's showing up as body. Let's look for that iframe, this one here. Yeah, there you go. You can see that the color, that's for the body. The iframe, I can't really tell if it's actually changing colors or if this is transparent. That's one reason I didn't add it, because I just don't find iframes necessary to change, because there's already going to be content in there. But if you really felt like there was some unsupported tag that you wanted, you can just simply do that and it should work. Now the next thing to do is manual mode. So if you just wanted to see auto mode, thanks for coming. I hope this helps and it works out for you and your website. So let's move on to auto mode. So we have the same thing, but now if I run these same commands that I did in auto mode, it's not gonna work by itself. What we need to do is we need to add class name. We need to add a class to each one of the ones we want to switch colors when we go into dark mode or when we go into light mode. So this is going to be just light, dark, and then we need to put light. The reason we put light in here is because when we initialize it, you might want the text in light mode to be dark, but you might want the text in light mode to be light, if that makes sense. So if we go back to this example here, the manual one, then you can see that the button here like the text in light mode is actually white. It's not dark like these ones are. And so you might want to invert it, as I said before, for more contrast or whatever. So we're going to switch to this file here. It's not finished yet, but I'm just gonna put that on there. And there we go. We should get, we should have dark, light, in there. So light, dark is the first part of the class name that is recognized by OpenLight to actually change those elements. And now we need to specify whether we want the background of it to change or the foreground. As I said, the text color or the background color. So in this case, it's text. We put a paragraph tag. So we're going to make this F for foreground, and let's do the same thing actually for the header. There we go. And should react the same way with OpenLight. And we're going to do this, but now we're going to actually select background. So it's going to be light, dark, B for background, and we want to start out with it being dark. Let's see, is that right? Yeah. Pretty sure that's right. You have to kind of think of it depending on your situation on your website. And so now we're going to open up that script tag again. And we're going to make the instance of OpenLight. New OpenLight. And this is going to be manual mode, so we put in manual. That's pretty important because if you don't put manual in there, it will automatically go to auto mode, and you can actually change it by doing OpenLight manual, but it's probably better if you just do it when you initialize the instance of the class. And we can do the same thing we did here, which is just change the background colors. If you skipped ahead to watch the tutorial for manual mode, then I'll just explain this part again. So there are default colors for OpenLight, which are actually these ones, but you might want to change the default colors between dark and light mode, and so that's why you put you can change it. So just to show you guys, I'll put 255 for red, so we should get the red background again, as we did in this example. And then we're going to run OpenLight init, and that should initialize it. So we should get this part. Oh right, sorry. Remember, you have to add it to all the elements you want because this is manual mode. So we have to do light, dark, B for background, and this we're doing it to the body, so the background of the whole page is changed, and we're starting out with it in light mode. Well, not necessarily in light mode, but it's kind of hard to explain, but you change it between these. So I can show you here. Right now it's technically in dark mode. If I change back the color, maybe it'll be easier to show that. See, we're in dark mode, and even though we're in dark mode, the background of this button is light because the default is dark mode, if that makes sense. So it's just for the sake of inverting colors to get more contrast, or maybe this button would be invisible or something would be invisible as it would blend in with the background. So you might want to do that. You may or may not want to do that, but in this case it kind of looks better. So yeah, if I do this, the button should change the background, but it won't actually change the text. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. And of course it didn't change. Why is that? Let's take a look. Cookie is not set. That's fine. By the way, this does save to cookies, your preferred mode, so whether it's dark mode or light mode. Cookies doesn't work unless you are like on an actual site, but because it's running locally, it won't actually do that. That's not what's causing our problem right now, but if I go over here and I make it light mode and I refresh, it's still in light mode. If I put it in dark mode, refresh, it's still in dark mode. Just thought I'd point that out. So now that I've already made this, it's time for me to do some debugging with you guys, as some of you may or may not run into the same issues. So let's go look at the official example. So we have this, and that's what it is. Alright, so we didn't toggle anything, and our button here shows this content here, but it's not set. It doesn't, OpenLight doesn't know that this button is supposed to be used to toggle dark and light mode. So let's start out by doing that, and then I'll show you how to make the text on the button also change color. So on click equals, same thing as OpenLight auto mode dot toggle mode. And here we go. It toggles, and as you can see, the text on the button does not change. And it's actually pretty easy to do that, so all you need to do is just add here the class for the foreground. So light, dark, F, and now it should be just fine. And there we go. It works like magic. And let's say if you wanted the page to start out in light mode rather than dark mode, which is the default, then all you have to do is just make sure you run it after the init, because you can't use it until it's initialized, which just makes sense. We're going to do toggle mode at the beginning, and now there we go. It defaults in light mode, and then we can continue toggling this like that. Now in manual mode, there aren't actually any extra features like adding tags or adding overrides, because you don't need that, because it's already automatic. It's not automatic, sorry. It's completely manual, so you add the classes you want or don't add them if you don't want dark mode. So let's say I make another header. Let's make this an H2. And let's just say, hello man. There we go. It's not visible because, let's see, why is that not visible? Thank you guys again for watching. I hope this helped you, and you can add dark mode and light mode, make it toggle between those two on your website, on your HTML website. It should work with almost any website really that you add it into. And if you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments. I'll reply as soon as I can. And don't forget that this tutorial works for version 1.2. I have 1.0, 1.1, and 1.2. This works for 1.2. It won't work for 1.1, but I don't think you need to use 1.1 right now. If I come out with something new and you still want to follow this tutorial, then just go to GitHub, press releases, and go to version 1.2, and it should work just fine for you. And I don't think that things will dramatically change in terms of how to use it anytime soon. But if it does, then yeah, you can just follow this tutorial and download the 1.2 release. So thanks for watching. I hope it helped, and I'll see you next time.